See, if I had the opportunity to do it all over again, and with the benefit of hindsight, I would have started something in, let's say, second year or third year within college itself.
Because there you'll also be able to find a lot of people, your friends, whom you can work with, right? You can never be good at everything, right? So maybe there is somebody who's good at algorithms, there is somebody who's good at talking to people, there is somebody who's good at branding, there is somebody who's good at creatives, right? Storytelling, because business is in one way storytelling.
So you can put it all together much better with the team. You can build a much better team there. You have much more time there, right? Because I don't know how you guys go about it today, but when we were in college, we hardly studied really, right? Once in college, we used to study the previous day attend classes and just study the previous day of the exam. The rest of the time, we were involved in extracurriculars and doing a lot of other stuff, but we hardly ever did anything in hindsight productive. All that time could have been used for something better. Getting a job is a more risk-averse way to go about things, right? You will get into it, you will learn. There'll be certain areas where you need a job and you need somebody to actually teach you that. Most of the other technical skills, you don't need somebody to teach you, right? If you want to get into tech or sales, etc., you can learn it yourself. So you will learn it and you'll know the right things faster by doing it yourself. See, when you get into a job, you will not always end up doing the exact thing that you want to do. You will not have the idea before it. Once you have an idea, you will not give 10%, 5% chance you might find a company and a role where you actually work on the same idea, right? You might work on the same industry, you might work on the similar technology platform, but you won't be working on that idea itself, right? You really start working on what you spend a year here, 1 month, 2 months, you'll pick up the same skills and you'll be able to ramp up faster. From the idea perspective, from your business perspective, you'll always be faster by doing it yourself. Obviously, the risk increases, but at an early stage, you can take a higher risk.
Also, many times outside perspective really helps. When you're into the system, you're not able to identify the gaps in the system. When you're looking something from outside, you can take a complete picture of that, right? So many times, companies, they hire consultants, right? They would take services of McKinsey. They are doing it day in and day out. Why would they hire McKinsey? Because McKinsey, somebody from McKinsey will come, he'll take a complete outside view, right? Holistic view. So it can work both ways. And also depends from sector to sector, like Deepak just said.
So for example, if I want to start my own consulting firm, it's always good to have worked, let's say, in a McKinsey or a BCG and then start your own consulting firm. Because the brand name of that carries forward. Where your experience itself is going to help you in your business, there obviously it's better, right? For example, if somebody is going to go and start NDTV, having worked in a TV and a media shop actually helps him run it better, actually helps him get funding, etc. for it. So those, at that stage, at those level of ideas, yes, it makes a level of difference.
Shall we take it this way, that the brand which you are working for will help you in fetching clients and you start your own venture?
It can.
Like you work in BCG, now you are in consulting of your own.
I'm not in the same type of consulting. It's a different type of consulting, but even then, the brand name of BCG carries value. Even if I leave aside consulting, even in my education space, my brand name of BCG carries value. So that happens.
So even like if you're pitching before the clients, then you must be mentioning the highlights of your past experience towards the different exposure to get one.
Absolutely. It helps. See, there are certain areas, there are certain industries where this knowledge you do not learn upfront, you cannot learn by just doing it yourself. You have to go through a certain process and actually learn how it's done within that industry or within the company. Those areas, yes, you being in the company actually helps, or being actually having worked actually helps. But those are typically high skill area industries, right? Which are probably less than 2%, less than 1% of all jobs or companies available there. Most of the other companies, it will not make much of a difference here and there. It depends on the ideas that you have. If you want to set up a factory of your own, if you want to straight away go and set up a factory of your own, right? You haven't ever worked on a factory, you actually need to go and understand, right? For that, you may do a job, you may do an internship, you might go to somebody and say, I just want to work in your factory for free, just to learn that stuff. You will have to spend that time learning, whatever you're going to do. You have to know it as well as at least all the broad areas, as well as anybody who's going to work with you or under you. You have to get work done from them. But once you have the knowledge, and in whichever area you have the knowledge, you can go and start.
Sir, right now you are in the service sector. Do you have any wish to go to any other sector or any other industry in the same sector? If so, why?
See, I have a lot of ideas. As I told you, I keep putting the ideas to the side. Ideally, you always want to go towards the product sector. In the service sector, it's all still dependent on you, how much you're working or how much the output. It's almost directly proportionate. You're not able to scale or leverage. Ideally, what you want is, I do this, there are 100 people under me who do this, and they are the ones who are actually creating value, and you're guiding them to do it. The greater the leverage you can create, the better it is. And that is where you want to move to. So you have to build a team, you have to build the organization, you have to go into area, depends again on how you want to go about it, right?
So many times you can actually prioritize your services.
Hmm.
So if you can create a template which is replicable, and replicating that does not replicating it on day in, day out basis every day does not require you to directly monitor it, supervise it, set it up. So I mean, so NIT for that matter, right? So people who must have started NIT, he will not be teaching computer courses. So he's templatized that.
Or even Infosys. This started off with outsourcing, right? But now the processes that they've built internally is so that whichever team comes in, whoever comes in, they can come in and get the work done. Right? So that is productization. So slowly, services will always try to move towards productization. In some areas, you might want to get directly into products. Depends on the type of opportunity that you're getting at that point of time. So you always.
So I don't have experience to entrepreneurship, but then I believe that for any entrepreneur, the biggest barrier to entry is the big giant. Say that because whatever either you come up with something that doesn't exist, but generally if you do start doing something that is there in the market already, you are obviously in a way, even before starting, you start competing with them. So what's your take on that? How should one start in that industry with that sort of competition?
Two parts. One, you have to first see if the overall industry is attractive enough or not. Right? There's some industries where the giant sitting and the industry is not going to grow significantly. Let's say tire manufacturing, right? There's certain big players sitting, huge brands entry to buyers. Nobody will buy a non-branded tire, etc. Mostly, right? So, I won't go and set up a tire company, right? But if I want to set up, let's say, an analytics firm or IT firm, etc., or there, you have to. Sorry, lost my train of thought. The question. What was the question?
It's about the
Giants already sitting there.
when you enter so many. For example, I want to enter into
You have to identify a niche. Can you do one small thing that is better than what they can do? If you can do that, enter with that, and then you can scale up.
So do you believe that must be identified before, like, is it a better, your whole plan would be much better off if you identify that before you get into it?
Always identify the niche before you get in. If you want to get into beverages, you have to, in the research that you do before getting in, right? You will find, okay, so there's this recent beverage, you might have seen some ads, right? They've come out with beverages like Ampani, Ampanna and different flavors, right? Which is not there in the market. So they've attacked the niche and then they'll go slowly into different pockets and then they'll get into that segment. But it doesn't say that if a Coke and a Pepsi have their juices and stuff, you can't get into juices. You identify the niche that you want to get into. Or if you have the resources, you do, let's say if Campa Cola were to restart. The resources, they have the brand name already existing, they can start again today, right? Or a Parle wants to restart their carbonated beverages business. That can still be started. So it depends on the resources that you have, but under the current assumption that we have limited resources, you identify a niche and start with that. When you start off, you don't have the same aspirations and the same targets that a big company has, right? You'll be happy with 1% of what they're doing. So, which is not difficult to do. Even in the current education business that we're doing, even within the first year itself, we have done around between 10 to 30% of the business that the established big large players are doing within the first year itself. So it's not difficult to do it. Who is to say that they have better people than you? Who is to say that they're more committed than you? They are still working with employees. Employees will never have the level of commitment that an entrepreneur has.
I would add something to it. So even if they have, so the thing is, in large companies, things, especially the decision making, okay, it moves at a very slow pace. That's the opportunity, okay. So by the time they'll be able to take a decision, you probably will be able to build the product, go in the market, right, and then they'll wake up. That's why these companies, they keep on acquiring small companies, you know, who have some interesting proposition.
Yeah.
So Kodak, for example, right, it was undisputed leader. Now where is Kodak after digital? Do you ever buy Kodak film? In fact, I'm not too sure if this is the correct thing, but as far as I know, the owner of Kodak and the management, they had the opportunity to buy this, you know, sort of digital technology, but they thought that we will do digital. I mean, they're nothing. So, you know, small companies, they have been able to take benefit of, you know, these bigger corporates just being there in their own comfort zone and just not being receptive to new great ideas.
So, sometimes we will be having a very big plans, will estimate a lot, we will be having a lot of judgments for that. But even though those ideas and plans are failures, so what might be the reason? Where does the failure goes to?
The failure goes to the business model and the execution. See, the idea will, even at the end of everything, the idea will only be 5% of the overall success. The final success lies in how you've defined the business model, right? The same business model will work, will not work for different people, will work, will not work, how you actually go down and implement it. Given the constraints that are there, given the timelines, etc., can you do the same things or see, finally the idea is to service a particular need of the customer and get them to pay a certain amount for that. How you actually deliver that? Do you do ABC, do you do ADE, etc., and make the customer happy and willing to pay? That is what you need to identify. Now these things, how do you actually do it? Do you do it yourself? Do you use freelancers? Do you tie up with somebody? How much money do you invest? How much services? How much product? Fixed cost, variable? All of those decisions on the ground, they will actually define what is the failure or success of the model.
So there are proactive and reactive approaches to the entrepreneurship. Like you give a number of products, they will continue to be on the same market. Now, even there might be an option like suppose the person wants to start, he was a leader and his business model collapsed because of the entry of new technology, rules of the game changed. Can't he you capitalize on his past brand image and go into the segment?
They always can. See, that is more around business strategy itself, right? For Kodak, I wouldn't call it entrepreneurship.
To what has happened in the market, reacting it to little.
Absolutely. See, if you go through the history of successful companies, the first mover advantage is highly overrated. All your Yahoo, Ask Jeeves, and all these search engines, there were 3 or 4 search engines before Google came onto the stage, right? They just did the same things better than what Yahoo could. They had a better algorithm. And later on, they leveraged it better in the monetization space. The whole business, where is the revenue going to come from? What are the costs that we're incurring? All of that, excuse me, needs to be thought through while you're actually doing your, running your business.
When you start a venture and it becomes successful, then more players come and it becomes competitive.
Obviously.
And suddenly what happens, the person who started it, he gets out of the competition. And the other players who come into the picture, they capitalize on it.
Because the first mover typically lays the groundwork for people to come in and create the market. The first mover did something in vacuum, right? The market didn't exist, customers didn't exist, they didn't know what the product is going to be, etc. The first mover created all of this. Now, the others have seen what is it that he is lacking, and they come up with better products. So, first movers very rarely will be the largest company in the business. So, last question?
We'll have some more time for discussion.
Absolutely.
So according to you, sir, we should tap the market which already exists and then come out with something like a better way of doing the same thing which already exists.
Not
Because if we do something very new out of the box, obviously after a year or two, before you could establish it properly, somebody will come to the market in a better way of doing the same thing you are doing, and then you will market leader.
See, from an Indian perspective, I'll talk here. 90 or 80% of the ideas that will be there will be things that are already being done or needs that are being met, and you just do it in a better fashion. 80% of the ideas you get will be around that only. 18% of ideas will be where it's not being done in India and it's being done somewhere else. Very rarely will you actually, or anybody will have an idea that's not being done anywhere in the world. Right? Where those ideas come from are typically either totally blue sky entrepreneurs or high-tech labs or high-tech fields. Most of the work that we do is everybody does it as in the same. So for water supply, right? It's a different way of supplying water. RO technology also exists, but it's just you've put it together and done it. You've not done anything drastically new. You've just, so the need already exists for clean water. You have identified I'll do it in this fashion. I'll just put things together and do it. You're not doing high-tech cutting-edge science research or anything new. Though that is in the realm of Elon Musk and stuff, that I will design, make Tesla and make new battery and electric cars better than all the other cars, or I'll send space rockets at 10% the cost of what NASA is sending it. That's in the realm of Google and Tesla and Elon Musk. Most of the stuff, or most of the entrepreneurship that most of us do is typically, it's already being done somewhere. So you just have to put it together and do it in a fashion that's better than other people doing it. Sorry, I'll take rest of the questions if any later. Manish?
I put together a small presentation while coming here. So this presentation actually has nothing to do with my journey or what I've done. my experience is it's essentially a collection of few case studies of some success stories around us. So what are you more interested in? My journey, my personal experiences, or the case studies? Okay, so I'll spend just 10 minutes on so improvements could be that you're probably offering the same thing or only just slightly better but at a lower cost, right? Google AdWords, I mean, even people who are running very small businesses, they had started using Google AdWords, especially in US, right? Because the quantum of money, even if you want to spend 2,000 rupees a month on advertising, Google is an option for you. You're paying per click. Unless until somebody comes to your website, you don't pay a single paisa. You can pay 30 to 40 rupees a click. So if you want to spend 2,000, you will get 50 clicks, or you might get 500 clicks depending on the click rate. So that's a different thing. So and Google till of late they never had a reseller program. So if you want to advertise on google.com, you have to go to google.com/AdWords, set up your account there. There is no middleman, right? Other options for advertising on internet were way too costly, or were not as qualitative as Google was, right? So, or it could be an innovation in your manufacturing methodology. Maybe you are able to use some other raw material. That is why you are able to bring down your cost of production, something like that. But there has to be certain USP in your business. If you do not have the luxury of 100 crores in your, see, many times it's you. So as Steve Jobs said that a lot of time people do not know what they want until you show it to them. So there was no market for tablets, right? So so tablet is almost a necessity in US. So even in India. So he's the one. He thought that if I take it to the market, that market people will love it. It's his passion that drove him to go and build iPad. How he built iPhone, which he was earlier used to build. He thought that he'll build iPad. It's a whole story that I'll skip. Is it always planned? No, not really. Google, for many years, they do not have any business model, any revenue model, even on business model, right? So they started that they have, it was in fact their PhD sort of thesis. They did it as part of their PhD. Search engine which will crawl some web pages and find information from those web pages, right? It later on got converted to this thing which was being used in Stanford, and then their professor and all those things that they thought that it's commercially viable, and then they dropped out from their PhDs which they were doing, and they started building, and then they ended up getting some funding, and they even went through dot-com crisis in 2000, 2001. Many of the biggies were not able to survive, but Google was able to. Why? Innovation. There is no substitute for that. Absolutely no substitute for that. So is it a good idea to do 5-year planning for startup? I think no. I'm not a big fan of business plans. So, I mean, you need to do a little bit of planning. One mistake which most of us make is that we build products or we start services, but when we are building, especially it's true in case of products, we are not very sure when the product is built. Let's say it takes 6 months to build that first prototype or first version of the product. How will it take it to the market? I think that's something you should also think while you're thinking of the concept, right? So if today I have to build a product, there are certain products which I will not be able to take it to the market because I'm not good at that. You also have to figure it how much synergies it has with your own strengths. What are you good at, right? So innovation, perseverance, I always say that. There are so many other factors, but nobody can be perfect. So in case you want to reach me, this is my mail ID.
Why don't you take us through your journey?
My journey? Okay. Can I sit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead and take us through your journey.
So I did my, so I passed out from Kharagpur, IIT Kharagpur, and and then I did my job in this company called Mentor Graphics. It has nothing to do with graphics. It's actually a company which is more into building softwares which are used to build chips. You know, chips which are used in every gadgets. I know for sure that 42% of the chips anywhere in the world, 42% of them are indirectly touched by the work that I had done 7-8 years ago or 10 years ago, because you cannot build those chips without using that software, and there are only 2-3 softwares in the world which capture that 100% of the market. So that's why it's a very satisfying thing that I've been able to touch so many circuits indirectly. So when I was doing my job, I was really passionate about it. I used to love my job immensely. I'm extremely proud of the fact that I worked in this company called Mentor Graphics. It was a startup in 90s, which got acquired by a Japanese company, which further got acquired by US MNC, big company. So when I joined that company, this acquisition had just happened 3-4 months ago. I had the luxury, sort of this beautiful combination of benefits of both the worlds, right? There is a certain energy in a startup, you know, informal kind of setting, and plus benefits of a corporate. So I immensely enjoyed it. There is some of my work which I did in my job, which I'm really proud of. It is published in some of the biggest, most reputed technical journals. I won international design contest in 2003. I mean, there are entries from best of the universities in the world, or best of the companies in the world: Intel, Stanford, Harvard, MIT, Berkeley. I don't know what happened. I just started losing interest. So mine is more of a binary. If either I'm really passionate or I kind of do nothing. So the reason I started is because I told you this company that I was working for, it was earlier a startup. In our company there was hardly anybody who left the job. I mean, for many people who were working at the time when I was working, most of my seniors, I knew that it is their first and it will be their last job. So maybe 10 years, 20 years, after 10 years also I'll find them here. After 20 years I'll find them here.
Because they are very passionate about that.
So it was see, the challenge that we get in the work, it was not a routine work. It was not an IT company. It was a real technology company. It was the best group in terms of talent. I mean, it wouldn't compromise on talent at all. And there was absolutely no politics. We will do anything, go any way to help our colleagues. That was a kind of culture in the company. So it's no longer the case, by the way. So see, I was seeing that these seniors of mine whom I used, most of them were also from IIT Kanpur, IIT Kharagpur, or had come from Google or Bell Labs. See, I knew for sure that I'm at most as talented as them, not more than that. And I probably will not have more passion than that they have. Even at that stage, they were 7-8 years seniors to me or 10 years senior to me. So I was thinking that at most I can reach where they have reached. In fact, they joined the company when the company had started, was in a very small room. This may be 10 by 15 room. They were used to be just 2 computers, and they used to working shift that 6 से 9 तक कंप्यूटर मैं लूँगा, 9 से 12 तक तू लेगा, 12 से 3 तक मैं लूँगा, तब तक पेन पे पेज पे कोड लिखेंगे. So that was the time. So of course they had taken big risk in their careers, and it was deservedly so that they used to get some extra benefits in the company than we used to get. So I thought that at best I can reach there. Some of that ceiling, which I could see right in front of me, it started scaring me. The at most I can reach there. So I thought that I'll do something else. It's very interesting that I thought that I'll apply for PhD. The reason was very stupid. I had taken GRE in the year 2002. I had accidentally got a good score. So I thought that 2006, or basically the session would have started in 2007, is the last year when my GRE score would be applicable. So I wanted to utilize the GRE score. I thought that I will apply for PhD, which I fortunately didn't do, not because I have anything else against PhD, but I was not meant for PhD. My focus is not spanned across 5 years. I can't focus for 5 years on one thing. It's in my personality. So then I thought I'd do MBA. I didn't do that. I thought I'll learn business, much more about business while doing a business, even if I'm a complete failure. And why pay few lakhs to a college? So why not invest in my own business? So the space that I was working in, it's sort of extremely high tech. Most of the companies which have come in that space are usually from universities in US or Japan or Europe, where somebody, some professor or group of students who are working on something for 5 years, 6 years, they were able to put together something which is commercially viable. Okay, so most of the startups in that space have come like that only, right? And it was a space which was not at all growing. In fact, today also it is, the market size is not bigger than it was 10 years ago. So it also did not have that glamour, where I thought that let me explore the world. When somebody asked me what will you do, I told him that I'm ready to do anything, even sell soaps and oil. I mean, whatever it takes. So I'm ready to do anything. We quickly, actually, we did first product. Then when we built the product, after building the product, we started thinking about the revenue model. There was none. Absolutely, there was no revenue model around it. And there was no distribution model. See, in today's world, you can live without revenues. WhatsApp is one of the examples, right? Hardly has any revenues. But we did not even have distribution model for our application because there was no app store, there was no Android, there was no iPhone at that time. So we had ended up hiring a computer science graduate from IIT Kharagpur itself, who otherwise had a job in a Japanese company. He wanted to work in a startup. We told him that, why do you want to work with us? We don't even have an office. He said that I really want to see the journey from absolute scratch. So I want to work with a startup. I told him, why don't you work with more established startup, where there is at least some certainty. He said that it's a first few months and first few years that I really want to see, because after that I think you'll find your own path, but it's that journey I would really want to see, because I want to do a startup on my own. He was very clear. So he was about to join, and we took up an office in a government building. So I'll cut this long story short. So we built second product with him. It was turning out to be more of a logistics business. It was a remote surveillance system which we have built. So we figured out that nobody will just buy that solution, but they will buy the whole solution around it. That you have to go install it for us, like you install a Airtel connection. So somehow with our personalities, me and my co-founder, our personalities were not meant for that kind of business. So we built, and that time Facebook had just come up. We built an application called iAspire. It was an application around people's aspiration. It's no longer there. You're not able to find it. So it was a good application that we put together. It was the first time I ever wrote a web application. I mean, just a few lines of it. Even today I cannot write web or mobile applications. I've never written that. So so there were some people, and Facebook applications were really hit at that time. I mean, in US there are applications who had millions of users without any marketing. So some people from US, they contacted us that, from whom did you get this made? And by that time we had completely exhausted our savings. It was already 10-12 months by the time we had left our jobs. So we said we have built it. They said, would you build it for us? Would you build applications for us? We said yes, why not? And that's how we got into services business. So it was not at all planned. So we started building applications for others. I did that for 5 years. We delivered many products for our clients, and I took the business to a certain scale. We are around 48 people when I decided to do a riskier stuff. I got a good offer. I got a good offer to acquire our company because they are struggling getting into mobile space. So when iPhone and Android came, we also got into basically mobile applications. So they're not able to build their business for mobile application development. So I took that opportunity, and last year I exited my own company, and I'm about to start my second venture next month. That's where I am. So and yeah, we started with almost zero capital. So because from services we have started to get revenues right in the first month itself. Yep.
Can we say that people who easily get bored or are not satisfied generally, they easily get bored, sir. They are very successful in business.
They typically are, especially in tech business they are. See, you have to have certain element of madness. I mean, see, the best thing about doing it on your own is that, it remains exciting for you. You have so many problems to. So there were times when I was looking more at my company's cash flow, marketing, sales, recruitment, hiring, convincing people to join my company, looking for office space, sitting with carpenter asking him to install the furniture properly, to worrying about from where will I pay salary for this month, to getting the kick of beating some of the biggies who bid for that particular project but were not able to get. So so it's actually you have to wear many hats, and you'll be able to find people who will be better than you. In fact, you should always hire people who are, there should be 2-3 people in your company whom you can look up to, and I mean, there are many people in my company who are better than me, and they have gone on to do their startups. We are a very small company. There are already 4 startups from Molecules. I mean, there are people who have gone to best of the universities for either for higher studies or have gone on to do their own startups, and I've invested in 2 of them. So, as Deepak said, the earlier you start, the better it is. I would agree with him. You should start something while you're studying, because typically there is that learning phase where where you will not be much productive. You will learn the basics of business, right? And 60-70% of any business are same. So be it an engineering plant, be it a WhatsApp, be it Uber, be it Infosys, be it Reliance, there are elements of businesses which are same. That's why people hire CEO. So I would not be surprised, let's say, if somebody from the management of HLL is hired to run business for Airtel, right? Because the fundamentals remain the same, and that's something you cannot learn in books.
Manish, I have a question. You said that you're starting your second venture now.
I will start.